Hi, Howard.
Hi, John.
How you doing?
I'm all right. I've got my microphone set up.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, when are we going to get to see your face?
When I buy a replacement camera and the Red Chinese quit uh, hacking the internet to get my facial measurements.
I see. I see.
No, I,
Well, I
I
well, I don't. I see. I don't care if they get my facial measurements because I'll just change my face.
well, yeah, this sounds like a Tom Cruise movie. Sounds like a Tom
Doesn't it,
Cruise
though?
movie I saw.
No, was that Tom Cruise or was that John Travolta did that thing, Face Off with Nicolas Cage, and they like traded faces or something.
Ew, that's weird. Well, the one I'm thinking of is a Tom Cruise movie, um, Minority Report.
Oh, I don't remember that there was a face changing thing in there in Minority Report.
Well, let me get my movies confused, but
Hmm.
don't they
Well,
always rip
just
these?
because just because I don't remember it doesn't mean it didn't happen.
Pardon? Well,
Could very well have.
hey, we're still closed down here in California. How are you guys doing up there?
Uh, we are somewhat closed down. Um, we are. Well, let's see. I just went to do a nutrition presentation at a home health care provider place. They have like 16 um, staff and healthcare providers that they wanted me to talk to, and we had to divide it into meetings to get it down to under. Well, they also had trouble with scheduling, but they had to keep it there. They had to keep it down to under 10. And when I walked in the room, it's like the chairs are like 8 feet apart, and
Well,
and we were required to wear masks and all that.
well, 5 million people have tested positive in the United States out of a population of what, 350, 360 million people. So it's loose. They should just get over it and let it roll. If there's
Well, and
hospitals,
also, and also of those 5 million that have tested positive, how many of them are already over it? You know, how many are really active right now?
yeah. Oh, I know. Our churches are still closed here in California. I
Yeah,
got
well,
an email from a,
yeah, well,
oh golly,
Yeah, well, in Oregon, the only church we have is in Portland, and that's close to where the riots are going on, so they're closed.
hmm,
They would be closed no matter what. But Gavin Newsom has been making it so that churches can't open and stuff. That's what I hear. I don't know if that's true.
well, if I can pass a physical, I'm on my way to Aruba.
Oh, good for you.
Yep,
Good for
but
you.
it turns out that I have alleged heart blockage. Ah!
Oh, do
Eh,
you?
that's what they tell me. They're wrong, of course. I mean, they're doctors. What do they know?
Uh, well, I wonder.
So,
I wonder what kind of test they have that makes them think that.
an EKG.
Ah, okay.
So,
I wonder.
any,
I wonder if nutrition would help that.
um,
I mean, I don't know.
well, I was thinking to go in the direction of niacin because I have brought my liver enzymes from uh, from arrange that the doctor was not happy to arrange where he was happy after I took niacin 200 milligrams for a month. So,
Right.
so anyway, what is happening is that I went to see my general practitioner last week, Thursday, I guess, yeah. And he was sent a text to a cardiologist to find out if his thoughts on my situation. This doctor who did my EKG, who is over nearby the orgs,
Uh-huh.
I don't have a lot of confidence in him, and he told me scary stuff.
Is that a Kaiser Permanente?
No, well, my general practitioner is a Kaiser doc.
Okay.
This chap was a guy named Clem Rodriguez, who is on a storefront up on the second floor on about Vermont and Fountain, Vermont and Lexington. So
Okay.
anyway,
All right. Marty's here.
Hello.
well, hello, Marty.
Hi, Marty.
Hello.
It must be hot in Florida. You're eating ice cream.
You bet. I'm inside eating it.
Hey, I am consuming a vanilla milkshake in Los Angeles. Hi, Marty.
Hi, Howard.
All right. Listen, I have to disappear for about 2 minutes, so I will be right back.
All right.
With the ability to as is yourself. Woohoo!
Yeah, that's pretty good. I liked your email about the re-listening to the deterioration of liberty.
Yep.
We seem
Amazing.
to have some deterioration of liberty last several months, wouldn't you say?
I would say
Um,
4 years.
golly, it's such crap.
No.
Are the orgs open there in Florida now, Marty?
Flag is, but only to locals.
Could you come in and quarantine and be considered a local?
Yep, 14 days.
Yikes.
Yikes. And if somebody is on lines and they go out of the Clearwater area, they have to quarantine themselves for a certain period before they go back in the org, even if they're on lines. Something like that. It's crazy. Totally crazy.
Yeah.
What kind of milkshake are you having?
Vanilla large
Whoa.
from Jack in the Box.
Oh.
Yours looks really good, Marty.
How come we can't? You don't do a picture, huh? Of yourself?
My camera is screwed up. It when I got it originally, it worked. It's fallen on the ground several times. I have one port to plug it into. If I do, I'll lose my keyboard.
Hi, Joel.
I made it.
Yay.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
Hey.
Hey.
Now you're good, living the good life there, Marty. Chewing on your
Oh,
ice cream.
Oh, you bet. My reward.
Yeah, good for you.
Don't know why I'm being rewarded, but I'll take it.
Yeah, that's right. You must have done something right somewhere.
There
along
you
the
go.
way.
I did.
How are you doing these days, Joel?
Doing fine. Other than I couldn't get my act together last Sunday, life's been pretty good.
Well, what happened?
I have no idea. Maybe I never registered for the August series. I mean, I couldn't find an email anywhere,
Okay.
and I think it just must have been that. So,
Okay. All right. Well, I'm glad you're here.
yeah,
John?
me too.
Yeah.
John, it would help if you would send out the current link each week, because I have to keep my email with this link as unread, and it gets buried way down so that I can find the correct link.
Well,
Otherwise, it says you have to re-register all the time.
each Sunday I send out the link to register.
Yeah, but if you're already registered,
Yeah, but the link that, then you get an email, and when your email, the email that you get has your link to join, which is, it says Marty Marshall on that link, so that when you come on, it's Marty Marshall.
Right.
And I don't know what that link is, because they're all different, and Joel's is different.
Oh, I see.
Joel's is different, and Howard's is different, and
Okay.
I got that email, John, but as a practice, I had starred the email with the August times on it, and I was able to search your name, John Muzak, and find it, and logged on with the previous email just for practice.
yeah, you certainly can do that.
So, unlike the week where
I mean, when I have things that I need to save like that, just myself personally,
yeah,
I put it in a corner in my desktop.
all right,
And
really good.
But that's myself, and that works for me. You know,
That would be good.
Not necessarily for other people.
Well, I wonder where Teresa is, for heaven's sake.
Teresa is here.
Hi,
is
Teresa. She snuck in on me. I didn't see her.
Yep.
There she is. Just came on. All right.
Yep.
Welcome,
Hello,
Teresa.
everyone. Thank you. Hello. Whoa, that looks good.
Hey, Teresa. Whoa, we just lost your picture.
Uh-oh.
It's all right. She decided she needed to do her hair or something.
I was getting water. Where'd my picture go?
Oh, all right. Well, down at the bottom of the screen, you have if you take your cursor and move it along the bottom of the Zoom meeting screen, it says you have a microphone there, and it says mute, and then next to that it has a little picture of a camera, and you have a line across the camera down there. You just click on that, and that'll start your video. There you
There
go.
you are.
There you are.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have to explain that to Joel. He knows all that stuff. Okay.
Only because I've screwed everything up at least a couple times and I finally learned, right?
No, but see, here's the trick. Is remember what you've done, so that then you don't do that again. Not like Teresa, who just stopped her video again. Did you do that on purpose, Teresa?
No.
There you are. Okay, you're back. Good. That's okay, Teresa. We're doing practice. This is a drill. This is good. All right, I think we're just going to go ahead and start. How's that sound?
That's good.
That's a deal.
How did you get away?
All right, so let me
I'm not.
let me share my screen. And I'm going to put up, there's the Constitution book. That should be familiar to a few of you.
Seen that before.
Yeah, okay, good. All right, so first we'll start with a review. Who's going to tell me what a republic is? So many people are jumping up there to tell me. I don't know what to do.
It's not a natural form of government, but it's a created one where you have the three top natural forms combined into one, and becomes the rule of law. So you have an aristocracy, a democracy, and an oligarchy.
Did you say monarchy in there, or did I miss that?
I don't remember.
Okay.
That was so long ago.
That's well, it was
President.
and it was
Monarchy.
awfully good. Anyone want to add anything to that?
The definition is the same as it was last week. Also,
That's why it's called review. Howard.
okay, res publica, things public. From the Latin.
Or actually the public thing is what it is.
Public thing.
It's
Yes.
The public thing.
the
Res
thing that belongs to the people. The
publica,
thing that's from the people.
res thing. I'm not sure the plural now. It's been many, many years since I studied Latin.
Yeah, well, it's been about 2,000 years since I studied.
Yeah.
Yeah, really.
I doubt that. Raise. So it's singular, John? Is it singular?
Res publica.
It is. It's the people's thing.
Okay, thing. All right, so singular then.
Yeah. That's sort of
So-
like, Cosa Nostra. It's our thing.
Oh,
So this is the people's thing.
all right. So we are a republic and not a democracy if we can keep it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's right. And a republic has those three forms of government. The Greeks who didn't know the word republic because they didn't know Latin, called it a constitutional polity. And the reason for that was because with a democracy, it's just, that's a natural form of government. You don't need to have a constitution. You don't need to have pieces that work together. It's just, that's what it is. Same with aristocracy, same with monarchy. But when you have all of those forms mixed together, it's a mixed government, which is what Marty was getting at, that it is a mixed government, then you have to have some kind of a guiding principle for how do they fit together. And that's what the Constitution does, whether it's written or unwritten, and whether it's followed or not, but at least it has this guiding principle. And the Constitution sets up a republic. And at the beginning of it, with the preamble, it shows that it is an agreement amongst the people that this is what we're going to do. We're going to allow ourselves to be ruled by this thing, and we are putting it in place for it to help us regulate ourselves. We are going to establish and ordain this Constitution for the United States so that we can see. And the unusual thing about this was we didn't have a king or somebody else telling us what we had to do. It's like we were going to have to rule ourselves. So we had to figure out how we're going to rule ourselves.
We've got to hire the right people.
Well, it's you got to make it. You have to make it set up so that those people these people working together and working against each other kind of neutralize each other's ambitions, making it that even if you do have a bad person in there, the good people around him are the ones that fix it up. Are the ones that neutralize the bad one. That is the idea and hope of it. That's why you have three branches, so that they can work, so that they can keep the others in balance.
Right.
And that's the idea. That's what they're trying to do. So we have. If we have three branches, then we have to define what those three branches are. Article 1 defines one of the branches. It defines the democratic part of the government. It's the legislature. It's going to be a Congress. You've got a House of Representatives and you have a Senate. That's article, and they're the ones that are going to make all the laws. Then you have that's Article 1. Then Article 2. That's Article 1, Section 1. Says that these are the guys that make all the laws. Article 1, Section 2 talks about the House of Representatives, who it's made up of, how the people get chosen for it, what the qualifications are for the people that are there. I seem to be missing someone. Hang on. There we go. Juanita is here. Hi, Juanita. And then Article 1, Section 3 talks about the Senate, who's in there, how they get chosen to go in there, what their qualifications are, the things they can do, special qualities that they have. special powers that they have. That's Article 3. That's Section 3. Then Sections 4, 5, and 6 are just kind of like setting up housekeeping for well, you got to keep a journal, and it takes a quorum to do business, and a number of items like that. Just makes it, just sets them up so that they can do that. Then Section 7, now we're starting to get into the meat of the thing, because Section 7 talks about here's the procedure to make a law. The whole point of this is to be able to make laws. So what's the procedure that you make laws? And that's what Section 7 is about. Then Section 8, which is where we are, is going to be what the powers of Congress are. In other words, what can you make laws about? So these are the things that you can make laws about. And I believe that when we were here before, we looked at the key words, and so we can refer back to them if we need to. But right now, we'll just go ahead and start with Section 8, the first clause of it. This is one of the longest, if not the longest, section in the entire Constitution. So Marty, read clause 1.
Okay.
Right there.
Section 8, the Congress shall have the power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excises, to pay the debts and provide for the common defense and general welfare of the United States. But all duties, imposts, and excises shall be uniform throughout the United States.
All right, now this tells a number of, this has a number of things that are interesting. The first is that it talks about that Congress has a power that the Articles of Confederation did not give Congress. It's going to have the power to lay and collect taxes. Now, there's two different kinds of taxes. We touched on it when we were talking about Section 2, because Section 2, when it's talking about the House of Representatives, talks about that representation and direct taxes are going to be apportioned amongst the states according to their numbers and so on, and then how to count the numbers and all that. So that means that there's some other kind of tax besides a direct tax. A direct tax is a tax that is on the person himself, which is like a poll tax. Everybody here pay me $1. That's a direct tax. But an indirect tax would be a tax that is on some product that's produced, some service that's performed, or some action that takes place. Marty and Joel, if one of them traded the other for some shoes, Joel sold Marty the shoes. That's an action, and we can tax the fact that the shoes transferred from one place to another. Marty's still going
Marty doesn't think so.
So stupid, but anyway, go ahead.
Well, Marty is going to have to pay a tax on it, or Joel is, one or the other, is going to have to pay a tax on it. So it's a tax that the person pays, but he doesn't pay it because he's just a person sitting there. He's paying it because he took some action. He did something to make this tax. And all of these items that are here, these taxes, duties, imposts, and excises, are all indirect taxes. They are taxes. In fact, we go back up, and I'm going to move back up and look at the definitions of words. We have duties, excises, and imposts. Duty is a tax. When a product crosses the border of a country, you pay a duty. Excises, it's a tax paid on a product manufactured or sold within. An impost is a duty, which is a tax.
In a country.
A product coming into a country. So all of these are indirect taxes. And so it's saying the Congress has the power to lay and collect indirect taxes. However, let me ask you, just by reading this, for what purposes can they lay and collect taxes? I mean, what can they do with the money?
We don't know yet.
Well, actually, it says right there.
It's right there.
Oh,
yeah.
to pay the debt, the
Yeah.
general welfare, provide for the common defense.
Good. Those are the three things that they can do. They can pay the debts, provide for the common defense, and the general welfare of the United States. Some people have taken this, in fact, the Supreme Court has taken this to mean Congress can do pretty much
Whatever it
anything,
wants.
pretty much anything they want. However, the further clauses down, you'll see there's a number of clauses here that have to do with general welfare, and then there's a number of clauses that have to do with common defense. So what they did is they said, well, here's the common defense and general welfare, and then it defines what it means by general welfare and what it means by common defense. So that, and this is an argument that I don't remember if it was Jefferson or Madison made, which was, if it was for anything that you wanted, then there would be no need to specify it down here. So obviously, these things that are specified here are used to define what we mean by common defense and general welfare. These are the things that you can do to provide for the general welfare. Does that make sense? Okay.
That's me.
Yeah, but obviously that is the big loophole that Congress jumps through, and the president.
And the courts allow it.
Yep.
The courts have decided that there are things, and anyway, until if enough people I'm not going to say stand up, but I shouldn't say that, but if enough people get ticked off enough about this that they vote the scoundrels out and get what Marty called the right people, then that recognize that these things here are the things that have to do with general welfare. Then we'll start sticking to those things. So I am all right now. But all of these duties imposed next. See, the first thing is all about the power to lay and collect taxes. It's what you do it for. It's that you have the power to do it. It's what you can do it for, which is pay the debts and also provide for these two things. But it does have a limitation. And the limitation is anybody shout out, what's the limitation on these duties, imposts, and excises?
They have to be uniform throughout the United States.
All right. Gold star, Marty. All right. Excellent.
So if I can interject a question here.
Sure.
Something like building the interstate roads starting in the 50s.
Yep.
Now you've got the clause in here to establish post offices and post roads. And I don't remember where I read it, though it was considered that the interstates, highways were not really allowed by the Constitution. But that seems to me that even without this clause on post offices and post roads, it did go to the general welfare of the states, and then it allowed interstate commerce and so forth and so on.
Except that wasn't my understanding, because I thought about post roads also. I went why was that? Why was that allowed? However, my understanding of it was that it was to support the armies.
Yes. It would provide landing strips for aircraft when the Chinese commies and the Russians had invaded the mainland, and it would, you
It
know,
would provide so that you could transport all the military
troops.
in, on the East Coast over to the West Coast to fend off, whoever is invading over there. And stuff
Okay,
like
so
that.
that was the reasoning on the interstates.
Yes.
That is my understanding of it.
Okay,
That's what I
Now,
have read or heard.
Now,
too.
also, I can also understand it in terms of possibly regulating,
commerce among
regulating,
several states.
Among the several
yeah,
states.
regulating commerce. Regulating commerce among the several states, making it easier to have that. Although that's really quite a stretch. However, the Commerce Clause has been stretched quite a bit.
Yeah.
So I do believe that that's a stretch. However, thank you for that example of something that was questionable, but I think actually can be fit under a power that they do have.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. All right. So now we'll get into the general welfare clauses here. And the first one, Joel, okay, you're next in my lineup. So, the first one,
Borrow money on the credit of the United States.
good. So that's something that they can do. What do you think they were? What problem were they trying to solve by allowing Congress to do that?
Yeah,
My
war debt.
understanding was that prior to the Constitution, when we were under the Articles of Confederation, or
Yep.
that the national government, so to speak, was pretty much destitute because not all the states were paying the money that they said they were going to pay. The Army just almost disbanded a number of times because soldiers didn't have any uniforms and so forth and so on. So the bottom line was they had to figure out a way to fund this new country, this new government that they had established.
Very good. Very good. And give them the power to do that. They gave them the power to tax, but if they don't have enough tax revenue to meet the need, then they have to be able to borrow it. So that's exactly right. It's to keep them so that they can stay afloat.
And even that, from my understanding, was contentious because not everybody felt that we should borrow money at all.
Yes, that's correct.
And that was a point of real discussion when coming up with their Constitution.
Yep. All right. The next one is Teresa.
Regulate.
Teresa, there you go. It's marked for you.
Okay. To regulate commerce with foreign nations and among the several states and with the Indian tribes.
All right. Why do you think that's a good idea? Why did they hand that over to the national government? Anybody?
Well, to get it out of the hands of the states, because the states were taxing, well, they're putting up a tariff against goods produced in another different state.
Uh-huh.
And you had real differences between northern states and southern states. And again, the feeling was that you had to have a united front against Britain and the European countries to work against them or with them, whatever it was going to be, but that it had to be all under one, whatever way you were going to go, everybody had to be together. So it was
Uniform throughout the United States.
Exactly.
Yes. All right. Good. That's foreign nations. And Howard spoke to among the several states. Now, what about the Indian tribes? Why would the Indian tribes be in there too?
Well, at the time, that was still very much part of their environment. And how they were dealt with has been the subject of wars earlier, contentions between the French and the English and Canada and the United States. So again, I think they wanted to have a united front when dealing with them.
Right, and also Indian tribes were their own nations.
Yeah.
Even though they weren't like France and Spain and considered to be, quote, civilized, they were their own nations, and there was a recognition that they were their own nations. And so we're you can't have the Indians going to Georgia and getting a better deal than going to North Carolina. I mean, you could, but
Yeah.
they were trying to make that more uniform as well. All right, we good with that?
Yep.
All right, Juanita, are you there?
I'm here, but I don't have my book. Yeah, I do.
Well, no. Well, do you see what's on the screen?
Yes, I do.
Okay,
But I can't
good.
read it.
You can't read what's on the screen?
No, I can't. It's too small.
Okay, all right. All right, well then, if it's all right with you, we'll skip you and have Howard read, but then I'm going to come back and ask
Sure.
you, why did they do that one, okay?
All right.
All right. All right, Howard.
Okay, to establish a
An uniform.
yeah, but to establish a, why is there an in there? All right, to
Because
establish
it's English.
Because it's
not my
English.
English.
It's British English.
British
All right.
English.
To establish an uniform rule of naturalization and uniform laws on the subject of bankruptcies throughout the United States.
All right. So this actually is two subjects in one.
Yeah.
And Juanita, what is a rule of naturalization? What does that mean?
I'm not sure.
Okay, fair enough. A rule of naturalization, or an uniform rule of naturalization, would be how does somebody see if you are a person who is born in country, you are a citizen of that country.
Right.
If you are born in that country and your parents are citizens of the country, you are a citizen of that country. You are a natural born citizen of that country. If somebody comes over from, I don't know, Ireland or wherever, and wants to become a citizen, they want to have the same rights and powers and abilities and immunities as though they were a natural born citizen. So they have to go through a process to become naturalized. And when they are naturalized, then they are allowed.
A citizen.
Then they're citizens. Exactly. So rather than having Georgia have one rule of, well, so we're going to have a uniform or an uniform rule of naturalization.
Mhm.
And can anyone tell me, or actually I'm going to ask Juanita, why do you think that would be a good idea?
Well, if they're coming to our country and they want to be a part of it, that's what they would have to do. So,
right. And if they came in Georgia and there was one rule for becoming naturalized, which was much easier than if you went to Massachusetts to be naturalized. Everybody would come in through Georgia, and then when they managed to meander up to Massachusetts would say, well, you're not really naturalized because you didn't go through the process that we require.
oh,
So you want to have a uniform rule of naturalization so
right.
that no matter where you come in, you are good throughout all of the states that are united.
Right.
Cool. All right. Now also we have a uniform laws on the subject of bankruptcies.
That's a good question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because you know, it's funny because I think of bankruptcy as something more modern, but here it is in the Constitution.
Yep.
So they were having all kinds of issues, I guess, back then too.
Yeah, all the time. People
Wow.
set up businesses and they fail. People.
Debtors
Pe-
prisons.
Well,
That's true.
They had debtors' prisons was one quote solution to that, but they also had, and one of the big things is you get some people together and they'd get a boat and go voyage to the East Indies to get a bunch of tea, and then when their ship came in, they'd all be rich.
Right.
However, somewhere along the line, the ship sinks.
Yeah.
And now they are bankrupt. And so they have to pay off the debts, or they have to somehow figure out how are we going to handle it. So why would you want to have a uniform law on the subject of bankruptcies throughout the United States?
You don't go from Massachusetts and their strict bankruptcy laws to Georgia with their not strict bankruptcy laws.
I was thinking the same thing.
Exactly right. Hi, Robert. Good to see you.
Hello, how are you? Sorry I'm late.
It's all right. It's all right. You're here. That's what counts.
That's right.
All right. So this was then another power that that the state said, you know, it'd be better if we kind of did that all together, and we'll have the National Congress do this: naturalization and bankruptcies. All right. And I think I'm down now to Robert. You're going to be up. Are you ready for that?
Sure, where are we?
Okay.
Coin money.
You see where I've marked it there on the screen?
Yes, general welfare.
General welfare and
The coin money.
yeah, I have it.
Okay.
I have it highlighted on the screen.
I got it. Yeah, I've got it. You just want me to read that one sentence?
Yes, sir. That one clause. Yes, sir.
Okay. To coin money, regulate the value thereof and of foreign coin, and fix the standard of weights and measures.
Good. All right. Now, why would it be a good idea for the central government to be the one that issues the money? Anybody.
It facilitates commerce. At the time, they were utilizing coin from all over Europe,
Right.
and it just became difficult and unwieldy if a bank has to have shekels from Amsterdam and guineas from England and all this kind of thing. It was just they just wanted to set it. Here's the standard. Here's the way it's going to be, and again, facilitate commerce.
Good. Yes, it is to facilitate commerce, and during this period, the most common coin in the colonies, in the new states,
Spanish dollar.
was the Spanish dollar. Well, it was a Spanish doubloon, which could be cut into 8 pieces, which is what pieces of 8 are. And 2 bits was 1/4 of the doubloon, which is why we still call it 2 bits.
Bits. Quarter.
2 bits is a quarter. Exactly right. And it comes from that period.
Well, it was also known as the Spanish real and the dollar.
Okay, good.
The Spanish milled dollar, because it had grooves on the side, so you couldn't shave it. Now, also at that time, the states were each printing their own paper money,
Good.
and that was a fiasco.
Yes.
Not a
No,
counterfeit.
go ahead, Howard. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, like Marty just said, counterfeiting was easier too.
Okay.
In
Well,
fact,
it seems to me that if we're setting up a federal government that's going to consist of a number of smaller units, a la states, and if there are new states coming in, there has to be some centralized things that apply to everybody, so that you don't have all this confusion, and it just makes life a whole lot easier if you do that, and it just makes more sense to have one central government control certain things that will affect everybody in all of the states. That's my story.
okay.
And stick it to it.
I wish I'd put it so eloquently.
Now it says coin money. Coin means coinage, hard money.
No,
gold,
actually, it
silver.
doesn't. No,
It
actually, it
says to
doesn't.
coin money,
Actually,
regulate the
what
value
it
thereof.
means, To coin means to bring something into existence. That's the actual definition of it. And there is a very, before we start going on to the hard money, or should we do not hard money, or should our bills of credit actually real money and all that kind of stuff, there is a real good little article in a law review that I will have to find and I will send out to you guys, and it's called, and it is a very close look at what exactly what they meant by this in terms of whether or not they really meant hard money. So
Also, the local banks would print their own banknotes, and those would circulate as currency throughout
and that
until the Civil War.
And that actually is how money started. Is the banks do that? That's been kind of from the beginning. That's how money started. Money didn't start with governments doing things. It actually started with banks doing things like that. Okay. Anyway, so if you're going to coin money, can we move on to the next one?
Well, I just want to point out that mint coins is definition number 1 of a verb. And when you get down to make metal into coins, you got to get down to 3, create expression, to invent or devise a word or phrase, to coin a phrase. So I just point that out.
Okay, I'm going to be sending you the link to this particular, it's about 56-page law review article. It's actually very fascinating. You'll like it in many ways. Okay?
All right, I hope. Yep.
All right. And if anybody else wants it, I can send it to you as well.
I'd like it, John.
Sure, send them.
Yeah,
Send them.
send it all to us.
Yeah.
Okay, go. All right, now I got to mark them down. All right, so to everybody on this list, we want the money thing, right?
Money, money.
Yep.
Give me-
All right.
The derivation of coin, Old French, C-O-I-N-G, a wedge, wedge-shaped, die for stamping coins, from the Latin cuneus, wedge.
All right, thank you, Howard.
Anytime.
All right, if you're going to coin money, if you're going to make the money and regulate the value of it and measure it against foreign coin, oh yes, and fix the standard of weights and measures, which is really what coinage is all about, is fixing the standard of weights and measures, so that if you have somebody who's trading goats, you got to know, is a 3-legged goat really a goat? What's the standard? You know.
Good point.
If you're going to have your money and regulate the value of it and so on, then you have to be able to do the next thing as well. And Marty, what is that?
Oh, is to provide for the punishment of counterfeiting the securities and current coin of the United States.
There you go. Exactly right. So, and that right there talks about securities. So,
What does securities mean in that time and that meaning?
because
Because we think of securities, it's trading and
what it is paper representations of valuable things.
okay.
Like a
Which
stock
can-
certificate.
Which can also be debts. It's just IOUs. It can
Bond.
be IOUs.
I have a question.
Teresa, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I have a question. Okay. When you go back to fixing the standard of weights and measures, does that mean, I thought it meant like saying what a pound is or an ounce or a quart.
That's correct.
What is a foot? Oh,
That's correct.
okay.
Yeah, I use the example of goat because just because it's an obvious thing. But yeah, how much does a quart weigh? You know. how big is a quart?
Yeah.
It's that kind of thing. It's exactly that. So that it is the same
Uniform.
in Georgia as it is in Massachusetts.
Right, okay.
All right.
Is it my imagination, or do I see a bunch of things in here that are pretty much violated at this point? Is it just me?
Okay.
I mean, when I grew up, we had feet and inches and all that stuff, and now I can't even, they got liters and all this, and I clear it up and I forget, and, because the other thing is so ingrained in my head, it's really hard for me to,
All
to
right,
read
well.
these labels, make comparisons. I'm like, I don't know. I just have to guess because it seems like it's getting
All right. Well.
changed.
All right. Well, here's another one. I think Teresa. I think you're up on it. No. I
Joel.
think it's Joel. Joel, I think you're doing this one.
Giving me the really hard ones here, John.
Yeah, I know.
To establish post offices and post roads.
There you go. And what would be the value of that? Why do we want to have the national government do that?
So we can have the Pony Express.
Well, maybe.
UPS.
Again, it's facilitating communication and commerce.
Correct.
That was obviously long before telephones on and on. That was the way of communicating was post offices. It was a good standard way of doing it, because then you could know that somebody was hired in a certain place to do a certain thing regarding communication, written communication.
And it's also, the idea was that the post offices and the post road would reach all parts of the country instead of just having, somebody like, Cornelius Vanderbilt do his post roads, and only his friends or the people that he thought were important would be part of this, part of the network, and other people would be left out. It was so that post roads and so that everybody all over the country would be able to communicate with others in the country.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
So we've got all these roads and we've built highways, and now we've got these toll roads, which from what I can figure out were paid for by we the people, but somebody's making money off of them.
Well, could I speak to that?
No. Yes, sure. Go ahead.
Okay, well, the only other kind of toll roads, the only other roads you had besides postal roads were toll roads back in the day. There is a toll road in Orange County. It's Highway 73. That was paid for by private money, and then they charge a fee to people that use the road till you get it paid off. The same thing in Colorado. There was the Boulder Turnpike that ran from Denver to Boulder, and we used to have to pay a quarter to go up to visit our friends in Boulder. When the thing finally got paid off, it became a free federal highway.
Interesting. Okay. I wonder if that's what happened also with the Pennsylvania Turnpike, because I remember.
Well, that's what they're supposed to be. I think when they built those roads, they may not have always had all the money. They might have had to borrow it, and the toll was to be able to pay it back, and then also provide maintenance on the road and so forth. But once the Congress figured out that they could make money on it, they just kept raising the tolls and kept keeping the money even after they paid all the maintenance and all the debt. So, but the original intent was just to pay for the road and pay for the maintenance and the upkeep.
Is that particularly true with the Pennsylvania Turnpike, Robert?
The Pennsylvania Turnpike was originally built by Eisenhower as a means of moving military goods across the state, and I'm not sure how that was paid for.
Okay.
So I don't know that. I don't know that.
Yeah, it's just I remember that was the first
Right.
toll road that I have ever run across, and and that was back in the 50s.
There were toll roads in Florida. Are there still toll roads?
Yes,
in
there
Florida?
are, which is what, because I got a bill in the mail for having crossed some without paying because they don't have little places you could pay anymore. So you get a bill in the mail if you don't have their pass.
Uh-huh.
And I like the Sunshine Skyway was built with public money, with, public money, but yet now it's a toll road. It's like, I can't figure it out. But yes, there are
Well,
toll
who
roads in
sent,
Florida.
who sends you the bill, Marty?
The state.
Okay, so the money goes to the state.
Yeah. I think it
Okay.
was the
Mark?
state. I think it was
Florida's
state.
roads are state. The Florida Turnpike. Florida's Turnpike is a toll road, and I think I-95 in some areas. I'm not sure. I don't think it is in Florida, but some areas it's a toll road also. But the Turnpike in Florida is the only toll road I know down there. But I don't know all of them. There may be others.
Good bunch.
Marty,
Okay,
there
well,
ain't no such thing as a free lunch.
I finally set my phone so it doesn't, it avoids toll roads because there's so many of them down here. There's a bunch.
oh,
Ah.
interesting.
And it's really hard to, sometimes you miss the end of the sign where it says you're going on a toll road, and then there's no place to pay your quarter or your dollar, whatever.
Well, so when
Anyway.
you get a bill, I'm just curious, when you get a bill,
Yeah.
you get one like what month, once a month or something like that, or?
Well, no, I got a bill because I used it twice when I was moving down here, and it was just the one bill. So it's only when you actually go and use, unless you get if you have a pass, that's a different thing.
Oh, okay, but
But
then
if you don't have the pass, then you get a bill if you use it and you haven't paid your toll.
yeah, right. So how much was the bill for?
Well, there was a $2.25 charge for doing that, and there was a $2.25 for the toll. So it came to $4 or something. It was not much, but
So was the
I
toll
would've-
actually the amount you'd pay from where you got on to where you got off, or did you pay for the whole turnpike, which is what
Yeah,
they do in Pennsylvania?
you pay for the toll. Well, I don't know. I know because you would only. I have no idea. But you paid for the toll, and then when they send it to you in the mail, they also give you a surcharge for them having to
Right.
send you a notice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Anyway,
All right. I was just wondering if they were anyway, if they were spending more to collect their $4 or not,
We hope.
probably.
They probably were, but that's
Yeah.
the way the government works, isn't it?
It is because they don't have any competition.
Right.
All right. So now we're going to go on to the next one. I'd like to finish the general welfare clauses in the next 10 minutes or so.
Okay.
All right. To promote the progress of arts and, who's up? Who's reading?
Teresa. I think Teresa's next.
All right, Teresa.
To promote the progress of science and useful arts by securing for limited times to authors and inventors the exclusive right to their respective writings and discoveries.
Good. And how is that going to, why do they want to give that to the federal government? Why don't they have each of the states do that?
The states would argue amongst themselves about who is
Our state did it first. We
Yeah,
did it first.
exactly. Right.
Mhm.
You're first, you're second, you lose.
Yeah.
Even more than that. Okay. I believe there's a more important reason, and it looks like Joel was opening his mouth and about to
I
say.
was. I mean, I think then there would be discord also. It's like, oh, no, we don't really think that guy did that, so we're going to take it for free. And just taking something and violating what is now known as copyright or patent law.
Yes, I think that's more like it. So that there
Copyright
you
or
are.
what?
Copyright and patent.
Oh, patent. Okay.
Yeah.
But it's
So
interesting.
that there you are. You make this invention in New York, and then some guy down there in Iowa copies it, and but you don't have the patent for Iowa. So this makes it national. It's all across the country. And the purpose of it is to promote the progress of science and useful arts, so that you are given you are securing for limited times the exclusive right to use these things. That's what copyright and those are, which is why people then go and invent things, because they figure they're going to get rich. But if copyrights and patents were not being enforced, nobody would do anything because it would just get ripped off. So,
Yeah.
all right. Anybody want to add anything else to that? All right.
No.
All right. Next one is this. And I think that's, who's that? Who's next? Who just read? Oh,
I read.
you read. Okay. All right, Robert. All right, Robert, I'm giving you this great big long one.
Okay, this is a tough one. To
Yeah.
constitute tribunals inferior to the Supreme Court.
All right. So, why do you think they do this? Why do you think they stuck that in there?
So that the Supreme Court wouldn't overtake everything?
Okay. Okay. That's not
So
bad.
these are federal courts, right? They're not
Correct.
state courts, federal courts, okay.
Correct.
To
Right.
give,
It's just that, yeah, you can't overwhelm the Supreme Court with everything. Nobody would ever get any justice because there just wouldn't be time for the small Supreme Court. So also then the distance people would have to travel. Not everybody would want to travel to Philadelphia or New York or Washington, D.C. I think it was New York. I guess Philadelphia when this was created. So anyways, the distance to travel from Georgia was a long way. So even Massachusetts.
Good. Excellent. Excellent. And for me, just because I'm a Constitution nerd, it's because in Article 3, they're going to define the Supreme Court and what the Supreme Court does, but they realized that they were going to have inferior tribunals, and they didn't want to have the Supreme Court be the one that determined their own power and their own structure. They wanted to have somebody else have a hand in that, so that it's part of a check and balance. It's part of a check and balance.
yeah, it was to keep the Supreme Court from getting too powerful by defining its own powers.
Yeah, yes. Very good. All right. And here is the last one in the general welfare group. And Howard, you're up.
To define and punish piracies and felonies committed on the high seas and offenses against the law of nations.
All right. Piracies and felonies committed on the high seas. Why would they put that in there?
The time the Barbary pirates were quite active in the Mediterranean area and were a severe problem for the merchants. The merchants basically it was merchants and farmers that created the commerce in the United States. So to have somebody spend all the money to get a ship to go get carpets from Turkey or whatever, and then have the Barbary pirates take it was a severe problem, and it became more so by the time Jefferson took over, which is why you had the Marines going off to the shores
Tripoli.
of Tripoli. Exactly right.
Tripoli, exactly right.
And if anybody's interested in that, there's an incredibly good book called The Six Frigates, which is the beginning of the U.S. Navy, and of course Ironsides is one of those six frigates, but it's a tremendous history on some of the problems they had with pirates and whatnot.
Great. Thank you. Thank you.
They still have a big problem with pirates too, by the way.
Yeah.
Yes, we do actually. It's interesting, isn't it? And and somewhat in the same part of the world, although I guess there's a lot in Asia as well.
And also, if there were piracies and felonies committed on the high seas, let's say it was off the shore of Maryland. Do we want to have Maryland go out and handle that? Because they are more strict than the way Georgia does it. And if Georgia was very lax, would we have a whole bunch of piracies and felonies being committed down there around Georgia, but not in other parts of it? Massachusetts patrols its water, but Georgia doesn't.
Yeah, exactly. at the time when my understanding was when the United States was created, at the time of the Constitution, the founding fathers were very concerned with kind of creating a reputation for the United States. And the European nations, including Britain, obviously, didn't really think very highly of these colonists who were way over there. And so we wanted to create a united front and hold up to our own rights of property and whatnot. So consequently, this clause.
Good, good, good.
Hey, John,
Yes, you
let
did.
me ask you a question. If you covered this earlier, just let me know and I'll go back and look at it. But I'm not familiar with the law of nations. What is that?
Good. That was the next point. The next point.
Okay.
All right. Does anyone would anyone like to take a stab at law of nations?
Magna
No.
Carta?
No.
I'm
Okay.
just kidding.
Well, just looking at it, and when I wrote this and was first looking at this, I said law of nations. Of course, that's got to be international law. That has to be, you know, kind of the agreements amongst nations. I'm going to do this, you're going to do that, and then if somebody, here what we're going to do, what this one is you have the power to define and then punish offenses against the law of nations. So Congress can then say, I don't know if there's an international law of, you know, like we have, you know, the Geneva Convention, and you know, you don't torture people or something, but just something like that. So then the Congress now can define and punish offenses against that law of nations.
So
I-
was there a specific written document or documents that were law of nations?
Yes.
I could have paid you to ask.
Hey, I fell into that one, huh?
I could have paid you to ask this question. Now,
Checks in the mail.
Howard says that the answer is yes, so he probably knows what it is. So you go ahead, Howard.
Well, I quickly Googled it, which is probably cheating, but anyway, the law of nations or principles of the law of nature applied to the conduct and affairs of nations and sovereigns. This was a legal treatise on international law by Emmerich de Vattel, published in 1758.
Okay, so preceded this by just a couple decades. Good.
Yes. The law of nations has been said to have modernized the entire practice of international law.
It is, yes, Howard is exactly correct. That's exactly what they were referring to with the law of nations there. And the book by Vattel was well known amongst the founding fathers. One of the books that after George Washington died and they were going through his effects, one of the books that was taken out of the New York City Library or something, and they had to return it with heavy fines because George Washington never sent, you know, he borrowed it and never took it back. It was overdue by years. Was the Law of Nations by Vattel.
By the what?
The Law of Nations is the name of the book, and it's by Vattel.
Oh, Vitell.
Vittel. Is that correct, Howard? I don't have it.
Yes, yes. His name is Emmerich de
Oh,
Vattel, V-A-T-T-E-L.
V-A or V-I?
A.
V-A-V-I-E-L. Okay.
okay.
Okay. And Vattel's book is basically it's 4 parts. The first part is what makes a nation. And it has to do with, you got borders, you have some kind of legal system inside, you have some kind of handling things, and you have citizens and what citizens are and what natural born citizens are. He defines all these things and that you have and that you have the borders. So that's the first book, is what is a nation. The second book is then what do you, how nations conduct commerce with each other, how they communicate to each other. And you said, you know, it's like the setting up of embassies or having consulates and that sort of thing, and how that should work. The third one is how you declare war if you have a problem with another nation, and what you should do to declare war, and kind of what the boundaries are for war, and that sort of thing. And then finally, the fourth book is how you then conclude a peace. What it is that you would do to make a treaty and that sort of thing. So that and Benjamin Franklin, I believe, is the first one to have the first American to have discovered it, and he brought over like a dozen copies of it or something from France or wherever he was, and said, "Oh, this is so good, everybody! Come on, we all got to get on board with this thing." And that was back in sometime in the 1770s. He had done that, and so it was kind of making the rounds. That book was making the rounds in the 1770s, 1780s. So they were all familiar with it. So they said, okay, if we have offenses against the law of nations, who's going to decide what they are and how are we going to punish them? And they gave that to Congress so that you don't have Georgia trying to do it. And I don't know, I keep picking on Georgia, but
Well, Google says that Swiss editor Charles W.F. Dumas sent Benjamin Franklin 3 original French copies of the book.
okay.
Franklin presented 1 copy to the Library Company of Philadelphia on December 9, 1775. Franklin thanked Dumas.
Okay. And then what did it say? What happened to the other 2 copies?
Franklin also said that this book by Vital, quote, has been continually in the hands of the members of our Congress now sitting, unquote. Right.
Yes, that's what I said. It was making the rounds. It was making the rounds at the Continental Congress and all that. They were all quite familiar with it. I shouldn't say quite familiar. They were familiar with it. They knew what it was about. So anyway, that's the law of nations, and that's what that was. So I have a little homework to do. I have to forward all you guys a thing about coining money, and I wish I could remember the guy's name. He is a very good legal scholar, and when you read his piece, it's about 50 pages long. It's a legal a law review article. Read all the footnotes too, because it's really quite detailed. He goes into it quite a bit. All right, so anyway, these are the clauses for general welfare. This is what they figured the Congress would be doing to promote the general welfare, and that was that. Okay, we good for that?
That's an interesting question.
Yes.
Because the way they're listed, did they actually plan on keeping like all the general welfare parts together and then the common defense parts together? Or did they just was it just?
I tell you the truth, I don't know. I know that when I was reading it and I was poring over it and I got down to the next one down below, and I said, oh my God, these all have to do with common defense. And then I went up and I looked at these other ones. I go, oh, all of these ones have to do with general welfare. And I just realized that they did. No one has ever told me that they are divided that way. That's my own division that I made. So
That's brilliant.
He comes along and says, no, they didn't really do that. You can agree with them. Okay, they didn't.
Don, have you seen the original Constitution? Is it? Do you know where it is?
You mean the National Archives?
Is that where it is?
Yeah.
They have a copy in the National Archives, and yes, I have seen it, but it was many years ago.
So if you went to look at section 8, would it be in the same sequence as these are? Did you put these in this sequence?
No, I did not put them in the.
Oh, you didn't? Okay.
No, I did not.
Okay. You just identified the groupings.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was just, I mean, it was just a sudden bolt of lightning that I saw the groupings. I mean,
It's in all of them. It's in here the same way. So they're all the same.
What is that you're looking at?
Just another copy of the Declaration. I mean, of the Constitution.
Okay.
Oops,
yeah, you can look up U.S. Constitution text in the.
Yeah, that's right. I can do that. Yep.
And you can do that, and you'll see that this is exactly
Yep.
what it is. All right, guys.
Thank you, John.
Next week, let's do common defense. You're very welcome. And actually, at the beginning of next week, we may have a rousing discussion about money. Okay.
Woo!
Okay.
All right, I hope
Okay.
so.
All right.
Thanks, John. Have a good week, everybody.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much.
Take care. Thanks.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye-bye, all.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
You're very welcome. My pleasure.